I'm starving. Oh, no. Good thing I'm not an engine. Welcome to the superpilotish channel. My name's Graham Wilson, and today in my basement, I'm going to be talking to you about how to prevent aircraft fuel starvation. And yeah, so I got this idea the other day because, well, actually, the other hour, I was just, what am I going to do for my show today? But, I was thinking about, yeah, flight safety is always a cool thing to talk about. And if you think about it statistically, one of the major reasons that little airplanes unfortunately get in accidents is they run out of gas. Now, some of that's not necessarily the pilot's fault. Sometimes there's other factors that are involved where the fuel doesn't quite make it to the engine. We'll talk about that a little bit here today. And for that, I will need my little whiteboard. Yeah, didn't actually this little dollar store cheapo marker is doing pretty well. It's not running out of black ink yet. Okay, fuel starvation. We'll say stop fuel starvation. Stop fuel starvation. Okay, here we go. Yeah, you would think it would be really easy. Hey, Al. You would think it would be really easy to, well, for most people that are non-pilots, you'd be like, well, just look at the gas gauge and like, there you go. That's how much gas you got. Well, yeah, there's a lot of little things that can happen in between, that it's a little bit different than a car. So we're going to start off first here. Actually, let's get a nice little red underline because we like our red for safety here. We'll do a double underline because this is doubly important. Fuel starvation quantity. Do you have enough gas? Quantity. Now you see on your car, quantity. Wow. Rocket science, right? No, it's on your car. It's amazing nowadays how accurate the computers are in the car for the fuel sensor or your gas gauge, and then the little computer will tell you what your range is. And it's amazing how accurate that is in cars. But unfortunately, there's a lot more factors that are at play with airplanes. And so, okay, so what we do for our pre-flight inspection as pilots, okay, every time we do our flying our plane, we go, they call it the walk around. You walk around the airplane and just make sure everything's good, check the oil, check the fuel. Are there any loose nuts and bolts or anything? Are the brake pads good? Or is there anything leaking underneath, brake fluid maybe? So you're checking all kinds of everything, cracked lights, whatever. Maybe someone got a little hanger rash and bumped the light and now we can't fly at night. So yeah, you're checking everything out. And the main thing to check there is your fuel and oil. So it's super important. And there's a couple ways that we do that is there's usually, depending on the airplane, some of them have two or more gas tanks, like one in each wing. Some of them have two in each wing. Some of them have three in each wing, or maybe two in each wing and one in a nacelle. There's lots of different ways that that the fuel systems can be laid out in these airplanes. And so you, as a pilot, you got to know where do I put the gas in this thing, and how do I check it? And we usually use like a dipstick for that. Usually somebody somewhere came up with a highly calibrated paint stir stick, which is pretty accurate. If you ever drain the tanks, you put it in a couple gallons of gas, you dip your little stick in, you make a little mark, you got exactly 2 gallons in there. And every few years or so, somebody will lose the stick and they calibrate the gas tanks again. And you got this little stick, you dip it in. Oh, I got 8 gallons. Okay, perfect. But they also sell these little things that they're very fancy, little cool plastic sticks. It looks like just like a straw, like a big drinking straw or something like that. And it works under the same principle as a pipette. If you ever went to chemistry class in high school, the pipette where you You kind of put it in, you put your thumb on top, pull it out, and you can measure how much is in the tube, and you let your thumb up, and all the water or fluid goes out. Now, I've had students and other people, they just don't know that whole suction thing with putting your thumb on top, and they just don't get it, and they can't accurately read fuel. I find for the general public, just use the good old stick, and that's one problem eliminated. That's a one way. So there's already a couple little things there that I've mentioned how the quantity could be wrong. The other thing could be that if you're in an airplane and you're flying around, you're okay. Maybe your fuel gauges are electric. So one of the big things that happens if you're smelling smoke in the cockpit, kind of smells like burnt plastic. That could be some sort of an electrical fire starting. And the way that little airplanes work is that you can just turn off all the electrical equipment, radios, everything, just turn it all off, and the engine will still run. It doesn't rely on the battery or the alternator or generator or anything like that to run. It's kind of like your lawnmower engine, it just keeps going. And but if as soon as you turn off the electrical because of maybe a possible emergency, then now you don't have fuel gauges. I hope you checked your gas before you got in the plane. So that's another little thing that could happen. And another thing that maybe I would say, like if people own their own airplanes, they can get it's very tempting and very common that people get a little bit lazy about doing the pre-flight inspection. Yeah, I flew my plane. I threw it back in the hangar. No one's been in the hangar since. I knew it flew great last time. And so some of the times what can happen is even for so the quantity of fuel, you could go out there and taxi. Maybe you do a quick little run up. You're checking things out. Oh, yeah, everything's working great. And but maybe you forgot that the fuel selector might have been off. Now, some of these airplanes, I know for the later models, Cessna 172s for sure, is that you can run the engine and everything, and there's a little fuel selector, and you can just turn that off. And some other planes, Piper airplanes will be like that too, the smaller ones. And you'll turn off the fuel, and the engine just keeps going because there's quite a bit of fuel that it's still sitting in the system there, and the engine can still run. So if you went and just hopped in the plane and you didn't really check things out, you just hopped in, engine started and went. You could theoretically go take off and run out of gas because your fuel was never turned on. It was using the residual fuel that was still in the system. So there's a problem with the quantity. And then also for if you're going to be dipping the fuel, as they say, you put your little dipstick into the tank. Now that is calibrated on a level surface. Now, what if maybe you're parked on grass at an air show or something like that? You got one wheel that's a little bit higher than the other. Maybe you went into a little bit of a divot in the grass, or you're on maybe some other airport where you had to use some chocks to keep it from rolling into the grass or something like that. Is your airplane nice and level? If not, depending on where your stick is going into the tank, you could have a higher or lower fuel level in there too. So look at that. Just like, oh yeah, just check. I just gave you a bunch of reasons there. That's why you can't trust your fuel gauge, and they're not in, and you never really should. So hey, Shecky, hey, Rich. Yeah, so there was that one. Now we got the quantity and also the quality. What's the quality of your fuel? Quality, quantity, quality. Dun, 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 dun. We want lots of gas and we want very high quality gas. So yeah, there's been numerous accidents that have happened in the past where somebody puts the wrong type of fuel into the airplane. So especially if you're at like an airport where maybe a fuel service will come by, you're out at lunch, you flew in for your $100 or $200 or $300 hamburger at the restaurant, and say, oh yeah, tell the fueler just to fuel up the plane. Yeah, fill it up full. Well, the new kid working there says, oh, I'll do a great job. And then they go out and they say, wait a minute, this is okay. The fuel nozzle here for the truck is bigger than the hole in the airplane. Oh, I'll just get this funnel over here and I'll just put that in and fill it up for him. Well, what the kid just did was put jet fuel in or diesel fuel basically into a regular gas fuel system. That makes engines kind of blow up. That's not too cool. So yeah, and that's just happened like tons and tons and tons of times. Improper training for the ground crew, or whatever. And I know that personally. I know a guy that happened to. He went and took off. The rent, his everything was pretty cool because the old 100 low lead gas was going through the system. As soon as he got up in the air, now all the jet fuel starts going through the system. The engine was running rough, and the engine stopped, and he managed to glide back down and land on the runway. Smell the gas; it's all kind of greasy, oily. Smells like diesel. Uh-oh. There we go. Kid put in the wrong gas. Yeah. Anyways, that'll happen. That happened to. There's a very famous story with Bob Hoover. He was like a real famous, I guess, test pilot in World War II, and went on to the air show circuit for years and years and years. And Bob Hoover, arguably, is one of the best hands and feet pilots ever in history. I would say, yeah, from what I've seen, way better than I could do. But yeah, good old Bob Hoover there. I was doing a little bit of research like I do before every show here. And it turns out 1989, he was his Shrike Commander, which is like an Aero Commander or a Twin Commander, two engines. It was designed to like kind of transport, I don't know, executive travel, I guess, something like that, but propeller engines. But Bob Hoover would take this thing out and do loops and rolls and stuff and shut the engines off and treat it like a glider. And I actually saw the London Air Show here when I was a kid. He was there, this yellow airplane going around, and oh, that doesn't make sense that this plane would be just whooshing by with no engine. He'd start the engines up again. He'd do all kinds of crazy stuff that I don't even know if that's legal anymore, that he'd be able to do that. But it was sure something to watch back in the day. And so, anyways, Bob Hoover took off. Some younger kid, all right, threw a bunch of jet fuel in his plane. Plane takes off, crashes, and then the good old Bob Hoover went to go see the guy that put the gas in the plane, and he said, well, everyone makes mistakes, and I want you fueling up my next plane because I know you won't make that one again. And so, yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know if I was a boss. I don't know. Would you fire a kid for that? If he kept Bob Hoover around for the show, made a good story. I don't know. That's but you got to look at the whole thing and who got trained where. It all ended up okay. Another thing there too about the quality of your gas is well, so make sure you got the right type. 100 low lead is your kind of standard. It's blue in color. If you've never seen it before, if you're not a pilot, we have the kind of blue gas we put in the tank, and it still has tetraethyl lead in it. So we're still burning lead because the older engines require lead for some of the lubrication on the lifters and stuff. There's other ways of getting around that. You can put kind of higher octane car gas in there, mole gas as they call it, and that was, you want to make sure you don't have any ethanol in there. Ethanol can get all kind of weird if it sits for a while. And oh, Robin, my man's here. Hi. And yeah, so the ethanol and stuff, yeah, you got to kind of watch out for that. I'm not sure exactly what type of like fuel stabilizers or whatever you can put into that type of mogas. Because I mean, I just did that with my motorcycle here. I took it out for a little ride the other day, and I figured it's getting a little bit cold, so threw a little bit of fuel stabilizer in there and threw in some gas, and it's going to sit there for the winter till I ride it again in the spring. And although I got to do an oil change on it, so I still might be starting that thing up. But anyways, the gas is going to sit there for months. I know back when the airports were all shut down a little while ago, in the area here, there was a few engine failures just after takeoff. That both pilots were fine, and yeah, they had car gas in there, been sitting for a while. Who knows what was happening with that, but they did okay. And yeah, so that you want to worry about that stuff. And okay, so there we go. We've got like, it's, see, just a few things. Like, what do you mean? How can my if you're like driving a car, it'd be like, wow, wow, there's a lot of things can be messing your engine up if you got an airplane. But that's what us pilots were kind of trained for that, and that's what the Super Pilotish channel is for. Is here to kind of remind some of the other pilots out here, hey, don't forget about that. Although, yeah, this is pretty common talk around the airport, though. Pilots will talk about this stuff. Okay, how else can we not have fuel going to the engine? Okay, this is another one here. We got the quantity, we got the quality, we got that all worked out. Headwind. What if you come up against, especially on a cross country trip, you're going somewhere pretty far, and whoa, wow, I didn't count on this headwind. So now the airplane is going through the air, like just trying to imagine it as if you're imagine it if you're in a river or something, and all of a sudden the current you're going upstream, and this current's not too bad against me, or you're swimming, maybe you're swimming upstream, and oh, now the current got really, now the current got really like really strong, like a headwind kind of thing, and now it could be pushing you backwards almost, or you're going to work a lot harder, use a lot more fuel, you'll use a lot more gas, and you might starve. Yeah, so watch out for those headwinds. Another thing that could happen there, I guess it'd probably be more like on, well, I would say on bigger airplanes, if something's heavier, it takes more fuel, but it won't really affect it too much there. And for just another little word of, I don't know, not advice, but it would be like a calming word of the like the big jets and the big those airline guys. The pilots don't even care about the fuel. They get like a little sheet. Oh, it looks like I'm good. Everybody checked it out for me. Cool. And there's like all systems in place and safety systems, and it's all computerized, and their iPad is synced up with the avionics of the airplane, and there's all this other stuff. Redundancies built into redundancies built into redundancies regarding fuel and engines and stuff. So I mean, the idea of a plane running out of fuel that's like a big jet, probably won't happen. It's Yeah, you never say never though. But I mean, but even still, all the pilots that were there, they're flying your big jets. They started off on the little ones, so they know all this stuff, and they'll just be just fine. Okay, another thing here is carburetor ice. Now, if you have an airplane with a carburetor, yeah, most cars and trucks and stuff like that, they don't carburate on. No, spelled that one wrong. Get my eraser out. Yeah, the most cars and trucks carburetor. Nice. All right, there we go. Carburetor ice. I was just gonna write carb ice, but oh well, we'll get all formal here. The yeah, so if you got carburetor ice, that's something that can happen, especially in airplanes when you got just the right temperature and just the right amount of moisture in the air. Yeah, it's got to do with all kinds of funky Venturis and Bernoullis and all this other stuff. But basically, if between a certain temperature range, especially with high moisture in the air, the fuel coming into the engine can cool down, and was it the air or things going into the carburetor can cool down and kind of form ice, and or the moisture in the air will form ice that will choke out any of the air getting to it. But we'll mention that one too. Air fuel mixture is going to be off, and yeah, that's important to mention. Maybe I guess it would keep some fuel from going there. It's mostly chokes off the air though, but still, carburetor ice very important. Oh, and then another one here too. Okay, we'll go 5 because I like the super pilotish 5. 5, 5. Okay, number 5. What else could keep that fuel from going to your engine? Okay. Improper. We'll say improper. Improper. Leaning technique. Lean. We'll just say improper lean. Now, I'm not talking about improper lean. Not like that. No, it's because what you can do is if you're getting lots of your air fuel mixture, you get lots of it going into lots of fuel going into the engine. They consider that a rich mixture of air fuel. And then if you have not too much gas going in there, they'll consider it a lean mixture of air and fuel, or fuel air. And so if you are improperly leaning your engine, now this can happen. Say you're on your cross country flight going to get your $1 million hamburger, and so you take off, and usually people start off with full rich, which means you're like the pilots can manually adjust how much fuel and air mixture is going into the engine. So if you have a whole bunch of gas going into the engine, you're going to use up more fuel per hour. So if you got a couple hour flight, you just used up a lot more fuel in that 2 hours there if you keep it at that setting. So ideally, when you climb up high power settings, climbing up, okay, now you're leveled off, you're cool. Now you bring back how much fuel is going into the engine to get it like a nice efficient burn. So what can happen is you just forget that. So you fly to your destination, or you're halfway there and you go, oh man, it's still, I got the mixture rich here. So now instead of burning maybe, say you got a little Cessna 150 or something, you're burning 6 gallons per hour at properly leaned cruise settings. And oops, I was burning like 9 gallons an hour. Oh, that's not cool. So you just like, ugh, you just decrease your range by 30%. Or no one really they don't really record how many gallons per hour you burn at that, but it can be significant. So there we go. Watch out for that stuff. So there we go. It's just like, yeah, who would have thought you can, like, if you're driving your car, you just go like, whatever, put gas in it and go. Well, you just heard 20 minutes of me babbling about, not babbling, but telling you, instructing, and hopefully reminding people of ways that, this can't happen to you. And so we will do a little recap before I look for questions. So here we go. Don't run out of gas. How do you do that? Okay. Quantity. Make sure you got lots and lots of gas in there, up to the maximum weight that you're allowed to have in the plane, of course. And it's like, yeah, like I was saying, just check those. Make sure you get a good dipstick to check those things. And what else we got here? Quality. Check if somebody, most important thing there for the quality is to check if somebody, if they put some gas in your plane, did they put the right kind? And you can also check for moisture there too. Every airplane has a little sump underneath, little hole you can drain out a little bit of gas, and you can check for water. So you'll have, if it's water, it'll be clear, and ideally you want to have some blue. What I like to do there is, if the airplane has got some kind of white color, because you hold up the gas like this and you got a blue sky, you might be like, well, whatever. But I usually like to hold it up against something that's like white. Okay, does that look blue? With a white background. Okay, yes, I know. And if it's still clear, you can get it where it's all clear. It's just all water. So that doesn't look right. And you dump it out and get some more. Okay, now I got some blue. Drain it out until you have it all blue for your 100 low lead, or your orange new non-leaded. What is it? GUL 100, something like that. I haven't seen it yet around here. And you don't want it like normal gasoline colored like Jet A. Don't want that. Okay, it's quality. Headwind. Watch your forecasts. Make sure the biggest thing about there, if you run into a headwind, the weirdest thing that I've ever encountered myself is that, like, I know I'm going to run out of, there's the airport. I can see the airport, but I'm not going to make it because I don't have enough gas. And that's happened to me before. And it's just like, it's the weirdest thing. It freaks you. Like, it just doesn't compute. There's the airport, but I don't have, and it's, I've been here and flown there all the time, but you got such a headwind. The trucks are passing you on the highway down there. And it's like, oh boy, I'm going slow. I'm going to end up in a field here if I don't go get some gas. So the guy I was with, we turned around and got some gas. But it is weird when you see, like, there's the airport and I know I can't make it. It's messes with your head. Okay, carburetor ice. Yeah, don't be shy about throwing that carburetor heat on to melt any ice that could be building up. Depending on your airplane type, the model of it, some are more susceptible to carburetor ice than others. And but yeah, don't be shy on throwing on the carburetor heat every once in a while, and make sure, as far as leaning the engine, if you're gonna forget, you're gonna forget. That's why, just don't forget. Oh yeah, easy. Just don't forget. Oh, it's easy to not crash. Just don't forget to do this. Piece of cake. There we go. And there we go. Oh, Jim's here too. Hi. Okay, we're gonna just kind of check on a few little. I don't know if there's any questions in here today. This is pretty. I don't know. Pretty. What would you call it? Boilerplate or pretty normal airplane talk, but. Okay. All right, here we go. Wrench is complaining again. Fuel usage by tank could be all automated. Silly that humans have to control which tank. Yeah, so some of the airplanes out there, they can draw evenly from both tanks, but other ones, you got to flip it back and forth. I know, Tomahawk, Piper Tomahawks, Piper Cherokees, Arrows, stuff like that. Got to keep flipping in between tanks, and all that stuff. It could be automated, but like all things in aviation, there, Wrench, it's like it just takes more money, right? And then it's like there's another point of failure that could happen. And then does the aircraft manufacturer want to bring on the liability for that, changing the system that's always worked? It's always good to blame the pilot instead of the new system for something like that. Extra weight, maybe. Yeah, I don't know, but a lot of that stuff's a lot of that stuff's pretty lightweight these days, so I don't know. But yes, we all know how much you like your robots there, Wrench. Yeah, check out Wrench's. He's got a YouTube channel too. That's he takes there's really interesting robot videos there for his the high school robot team. And what do we got here? All right. What do we got here? Press primer button 500 times. Yeah, there we go. You want to flood your engine? That's how you do it. But you know what? It does bring up a point though. For these airplanes with like a carburetor, and then you'll prime the engine. So what you do is there's like a little plunger usually that you pull out, and the plunger sucks a little bit of fuel into it, and then you push it, and then that goes in through a bunch of tubing directly into the cylinder of the airplane. So I have heard of it where there's been a problem with the fuel pump or something like that. And if you get that little primer and you just keep pumping it, or the what is it? Pratt and Whitney has they got their wobble pumps and stuff, like it's a manual fuel pump type thing, and you can kind of limp the airplane along on it, and stretch out the glide to hopefully get to an airport. And yeah, so that's another good thing to think of. Yes. No, Wrench, jet fuel is not faster. We will clear that up right now. The jet fuel blows up. Well, I knew this one old guy. He had a Mustang Mach 1, those 1978, but he said it was really fast. It had a 302 cubic inch engine in it. And he said him and his buddies, they used to go just to be cool. He said they would race up from here up to Sarnia, and they would they would put like a little bit of like diesel fuel in there so it would smoke out the back better. It would look really cool. And I was thinking, that's not good for the engine. He's like, yeah, the engine blew up until I blew the engine on it. It's like, yeah, that'll happen, dude. But they looked very cool and smoky till they blew up the engine. So, okay. What else we got here? We're talking all kinds of cool cars. What? Shecky had a Corvair? That's pretty wild. The only thing I know about Corvairs is that they have an air-cooled engine, which is just like, yeah, it was just like air-cooled engine, just like airplanes, and Volkswagen Beetles had that too. But, the Volkswagen Beetle got its engine from an airplane, so that's why it was air-cooled, and, the only thing I know about a Corvair is that a buddy of mine, his dad bought one brand new. He drove it off the lot and it caught on fire right in front of the dealership. So he got out and he was sitting there burning in front of the dealership. And he went back in with the keys and he's like, I don't think I'm going to buy the car. Can I have my money back? Or he just bought it. He's like, I want my money back. It's out there burning, So, anyways, yeah, they had Corvairs had little fuel problems there too, here and there. I've heard of people using Corvair engines for home built airplanes or amateur built airplanes or experimental planes. They don't put them in a plane. They're no good. they going to blow up. Car engines are not made to go into airplanes. That's my thing. Oh well, there we go. Shecky's family owned over 20 Corvairs. Well, good stuff. Okay. Okay, so that's about it for today. Oh, here we go. What's this here? Turn on electric pump before changing tanks. Yeah, I fly Tomahawks and Cherokees. Yeah, according to the book, I think for Cherokees and Tomahawks, yeah, the book says put on your fuel pump, switch your electric fuel pump, and then switch tanks, turn it off. I've done it lots of times without the pump. It's with that, but the book does say that you are correct. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's about it for today. Today is Monday. It's getting cold out there. Watch out for carburetor ice. Yeah, so I'll be back. Yeah, we'll just kind of, that is about it. Oh, Al has to go here too. All right, me too. Okay, guys, I'll be back on Wednesday because I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern, and we'll just kind of shut her down and see you on Wednesday. Okay, thanks for watching, and bye.